This is a training for K12 Texas MKV Homeless Assistance Act. Our agenda today will be look at a framework of homelessness. We will look at the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, McKinney-Vento Identification, Enrollment and Access, LEA Homeless Liaison, and finally look at resources that you can access for more information. Participants will understand the key components of the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, the educational definition of homelessness, the roles and responsibilities of local education agencies, or LEAs, to support students who are experiencing homelessness, the key components of identifying students as homeless, and how to effectively identify homeless students. What causes homelessness? There are many reasons that may cause homelessness. The most common reasons are lack of affordable housing, parental conflicts, parental job loss, situational poverty, and chronic poverty. Examples of situational poverty include divorce, domestic abuse, medical issues, and natural disasters. Examples of chronic poverty include families who will live a year doubled up with another family member or neighbor. The second year, they may move into a hotel and change hotels every few weeks or months. The third year, they may move into a shelter and change shelters every few weeks or every few months. McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. The McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act is federal legislation authorizing programs and funding in response to homelessness in the United States. Subtitle 7B of the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act authorizes the federal Education for Homeless Children and Youth program and is the primary piece of federal legislation related to the education of children and youth experiencing homelessness. This was reauthorized in December of 2015 by Title IX, Part A of the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA. The requirements of McKinney-Vento. LEAs are required to appoint a local homeless liaison, have identification of homeless students, enroll homeless students immediately, even without required records, enroll homeless students in free school meal program, continue the student's education in the school of origin, eligible for school of origin transportation if requested by parent, guardian, unaccompanied student, if in the best interest of the student. LEAs are also required to provide services to homeless students that are comparable to those offered to other students, make student records available in a timely manner, review and revise policies that may act as barriers to the enrollment of homeless students, provide written notice to parents or guardians related to the appeal process when the LEA sends the student to a school other than the school requested. The history of the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act began in 1987, and this is the year of the original authorization. In 2000, it became part of No Child Left Behind. In 2015, it became part of Every Student Succeeds Act that was signed in December of 2015. In 2016, ESSA reauthorized the Elementary and Secondary Education Act and the Education subtitle of McKinney-Vento Act. Also in 2016, the ESSA amendments to McKinney-Vento went into effect in October of 2016. Identification of McKinney-Vento students. The McKinney-Vento educational definition of homelessness is children and youth who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, including sharing the housings of other persons due to the loss of housing, economic hardship, or similar reason, living in motels, hotels, trailer parks, or camping grounds due to the lack of alternative adequate accommodations, living in emergency or transitional shelters, or are abandoned in hospitals. Children and youth who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence that includes living in public or private place not designated or ordinarily used as a regular sleeping accommodation for human beings, living in cars, parks, public spaces, abandoned buildings, substandard housing, bus or train stations, or similar settings. Migratory children living in the above circumstances, or unaccompanied youth includes a homeless child or youth not in the custody of a parent or guardian. The questions we ask ourselves about our students if determining McKinney-Vento Assistance Act eligibility is their housing fixed, regular, and adequate? Questions to ask about students who are sharing housing or who are doubled up. Number one, is this due to crisis or mutual choice? For instance, if a family has moved in with an older relative in order to care for the older relative, that would not be a doubled up situation because it is not due to crisis, it is a mutual choice. How permanent is a living arrangement intended to be? If it is temporary, based on the loss of a job, and then the family will be moving into their own housing, they are at that time doubled up. Where would the family live if not sharing housing? The alternative to sharing a relative or neighbor's house is that the family would be living in their car, in a shelter, or in a hotel. Then the family is considered to be doubled up. Is the living arrangement fixed, regular, and adequate? If a family is living with a relative or with a neighbor, some of the living and sleeping arrangements may be children sleeping on pallets on the floor or on the couch, then that living arrangement is not necessarily adequate nor regular. And that means that the family would be eligible for the rights and protections under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. Possible indicators of homelessness. A student tells staff or faculty member that we are living with my relative right now, at which point you can ask additional questions to find out if that arrangement is mutual or if it is because of a crisis. A student or parent tells a staff or faculty member, we don't have internet right now because we are staying in an RV park. We are planning on being able to move into an apartment in a few months. Because that living situation is temporary, because they do not have access to the adequate utilities, that would be an example of a family who is homeless. A student or parent tells a staff or faculty member that they are living in a hotel or a shelter. And again, if this is temporary housing until they are able to move into permanent housing, and this move is based on crisis or job loss, then that would indicate that the family would receive protections and services under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. Identification of homeless students and K12 Texas for campus staff. If a staff member suspects a family may qualify for protections and supports under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act, they should contact their school-based enrollment coordinator, or their SBEC. Staff members should be prepared to share the student's name, student identification number, legal guardian's name, and a working contact phone number or email address with their school's SBEC. The SBEC will then provide the residency questionnaire to the family. Identification of homeless students in K12 Texas. Students and parents who indicate that they possibly qualify for services and protections under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act will need to complete the residency questionnaire form. The school-based enrollment coordinator, or SBEC, verifies that the student qualifies for services and protections under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act. The SBEC identifies the student to the school at-risk coordinator and homeless liaison and student resource coordinator. Enrollment and access. Identification and services for homeless students include the student residency questionnaire, intake form, school enrollment, immunizations, access to educational services, including special ed and 504 and GT, school selection, school of origin transportation, and state school selection provision. School enrollment. Homeless students have the right to enroll in school immediately, even if lacking documentation normally required for enrollment. This includes immunization records, as well as proof of residency. Students are allowed to enroll in school services. This includes early childhood programs, special education, English language programs, gifted and talented, career and technical education, Title I Part A, and state compensatory education program. Enrollment for homeless students and K12 Texas. Families unable to submit required documents to complete registration or re-registration are provided with a residency questionnaire by the school-based enrollment coordinator. The school-based enrollment coordinator verifies that students are eligible for services and protections under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. Once identification is verified, the student is enrolled. The SBAC identifies the student to the school at-risk coordinator and grade level homeless liaison and student resource coordinators. Access for homeless students in K12 Texas includes internet hotspots, computers and printers, transportations to required testing, and support from homeless liaisons and student resource coordinators for housing, utilities, food, and healthcare. Internet hotspots. Requests for internet hotspots are processed and filled by the school-based enrollment coordinator. Computers and printers. K12 will loan qualifying families a computer and printer for the duration of their enrollment. Parents are able to request a computer during enrollment. Parents can also request a computer through the My Info and hardware tabs from the Learning Coach account in the online school. Transportation to required testing sites. Students who qualify for support and protections under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act will be provided with transportation to required state testing sites on scheduled testing days. Student support advisors will confirm the student need and refer the student to the student resource coordinator to complete testing transportation scheduling. The student support administrator will schedule transportation using external rideshare vendors. Legal guardians are required to accompany minors during transportation to and from testing sites. The student resource coordinator. After a family has been verified as qualifying for supports and protections by the student-based enrollment coordinator, the family is identified to the at-risk coordinator and the student resource coordinator. Student resource coordinators contact each identified family and complete a student intake form to identify the specific needs for each family. The student resource coordinator will work with the family to ensure that the family has access to needed resources. The LEA Homeless Liaison. Homeless liaisons ensure identification of students experiencing homelessness by offering guidance on identification procedures, training school personnel, posting awareness materials, and outreach to the community. McKinney-Vento, FAFSA, and ESSA. As a result of amendments made to the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act by the Every Student Succeeds Act, school district homeless liaisons are now required to inform unaccompanied homeless youth of their status as independent students for college financial aid and help them to obtain assistance to receive verification for the FAFSA. Liaisons should inform unaccompanied youth of their eligibility as independent students as soon as possible. This is to ensure that they are set their sights on college and also that they apply for financial aid well ahead of all deadlines. The Homeless Liaison in K12 Texas. The Grade Level Student Resource Coordinator, or SRC, is the homeless liaison for students within their assigned caseload. Resources for this presentation, as well as additional resources for research, can be found at www.nationalhomeless.org, as well as tea.texas.gov, Texas Schools, support for at-risk schools and students, the Texas Education for Homeless Children and Youth, or TEHCY program, and at www.eotexas.org.